Everybody, welcome back. I'm Darian the Eclectic, and today we're going to be continuing our series on the story grid writing methodology and the different genre conventions and obligatory scenes that readers expect to see within each different genre. So, for example, today we're talking about the action genre. If you are writing an action story, there are certain things that your readers are going to expect to see within the story in order to feel satisfied as they read it, in order to feel like this is the genre that they picked up, that they expected to read, and then feel satisfied that it is indeed an action genre, for example. Now we're continuing this series, and I've done several more. So if you're interested in watching the rest of those, I will have listed somewhere around here the last episode we did. Make sure you go and check that out if you're interested in some of the other genres. But for now, let's start with the action genre. So we're going to start with the genre conventions. And again, the genre conventions are things readers expect to see when they pick up what they think is an action novel. The first convention is a hero with a special skill or ability. Now, this is really obvious in superhero movies, TV shows, books. If it's an action story, they've got to have some kind of ability that is going to give them the leg up and make this an exciting action story. Now, that skill or ability doesn't have to necessarily be a superpower. It can be, being really skilled in combat, being really skilled with weapons, being very skilled in, some other aspect that is going to help this be action-packed. Now, I want to say this can include some non-physical attributes. However, make sure if you're going to use something like they're very good at reverse psychology, or they're very good at tricking people, maybe they're a skilled magician, something like that. Just make sure that if you're going to choose something along those lines, that it is still action-packed, that there are still things that are very tense and actionable within the story. Otherwise, it's going to be more of like a psychological thriller or something else. If they're not racing and running and fighting and doing something physical, then it's probably not an action story. Number two, the genre conventions for the action genre is a powerful antagonist. Now notice this is antagonist and not necessarily villain. The difference between a villain and an antagonist is a villain is another being, a person, for example. But an antagonist can be whether it can be a person, it can be the struggle of someone in the wilderness. An antagonist doesn't necessarily have to be a person. So if the hero is up against a powerful antagonist, that's going to stretch their skills and their abilities. That's going to force them to dig deeper and try harder and fail and get better as they go up against this antagonist. Number three is a high stakes objective. Now, high stakes objective, the most obvious one is life and death. So if the hero does not win in the end, many someones is going to die. The Earth's, survival is at stake. There are some really, really huge stakes involved with this. First thing that comes to mind for me is the Dan Brown book, Inferno. And in that, the high stakes were that the villain is going to release a toxin that was going to cull the population. And they didn't know as they went through the story how exactly that was going to happen. They assumed it was going to kill off half the population of the Earth. That wasn't actually what happened in the end, but regardless, the stakes were incredibly high. So just make sure that if your hero fails, some big, terrible, high consequence things are going to happen. Number four in the action genre conventions is constant movement and action. So like I said in the beginning, if you're doing something more mental or close encounter type of action, make sure that there's still a lot of movement and a lot of action involved. If they're not moving, if it's more of like sitting and talking, that's not really an action genre. They need to be fighting. They need to be using their powers. They need to be running and chasing. There needs to be a lot happening for this to fall into the action genre. And number five in the conventions is that the hero faces physical and moral tests. Now, the hero has these special abilities, right? And they're going up against a powerful antagonist. they have to be tested. So not only physically, right? They have to be able to use their skills, their abilities, and push and be beat down and have to dig deep and find other ways, but they also need to be tested morally. They have to be given choices that could either give them the easy way out or require them to be the hero they're supposed to be and make the hard choices, right? So just make sure in the action genre, you're testing them both physically and morally. All right, so now we're gonna be talking about the obligatory scenes within the action genre. And the obligatory scenes are certain scenes readers are going to expect to find very specifically within an action story. And the first obligatory scene within the action genre is an inciting attack. Now, this inciting attack is going to most likely be from the antagonist, from the villain, on, a wider group. It's going to get the attention of the hero, and it might be something directed only at the hero, or it might be something directed at a larger community that gets the attention of the hero and shows the immediate stakes, right? So the inciting attack starts off the story, and then we get into the hero seeing what's going on and having to take action in some way. Very similar to the crime and thriller genres, where there was an inciting incident that showed the stakes right away before we're even introduced to the protagonist. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be the case in the action genre. The protagonist can absolutely be involved in the inciting attack. This can even be a show of the protagonist's abilities right away before we're introduced to the villain. But the purpose of this inciting attack within the action genre is to demonstrate to the reader what kind of genre, what kind of story this is going to be. It's an action genre with high stakes, high abilities, heroes and villains, and a lot of action and movement. The second obligatory scene is that the hero responds to the call to action. Now, if you're familiar with other outlines, you might recognize this from the hero's journey, this particular verbiage, and a lot of action and hero stories follow the hero's journey. So within the action genre, an obligatory scene that readers expect to find is the hero saying yes. The hero saying, okay, I have to go and be the hero. In this case, I have to go and stop the antagonist, the villain, whatever's going on, in order to prevent the negative outcome of those high stakes. Number 3 in the obligatory scenes is training and preparation. So this is the training montage, right? Every action story needs a training montage. We need to see the hero threatened, accept the call to action, and then go about preparing for the face-off with the villain, with the antagonist. They have to be doing something to get ready. Maybe they started off with special skills and abilities, but because this is a very strong and powerful antagonist, it's not going to be enough, or it's going to require them to level up, to get back in shape, whatever it might be, in order to face off against the villain, against the antagonist. So, as fun as it is, let's make sure we include that training montage because readers love it, writers love to write it. It is one of the keys and signatures of the action genre. Number 4 in obligatory scenes is a confrontation with the antagonist. So, of course, if the hero is preparing and knows they're going to have to face off, we have to have the eventual face-off. So this is the hero going up against the villain. It doesn't necessarily have to be just once. In fact, it should be multiple times, right? That try-fail cycle is really important in a story. Otherwise, it's real short and a lot less satisfying. So let's have a try-fail cycle. Let's have the hero go up against that antagonist and fail and come back, train harder, fail, hit rock bottom, find something deep within themselves, rise up, and eventually take down that antagonist. So make sure if you're writing it in the action genre, you have the confrontation with the antagonist. And number 5 in the obligatory scenes for the action genre is the final face-off and resolution. So the confrontation is a little bit different because it's the meeting, right? It's the try-fail cycles. And when the hero wins in the end, that's when we come to the final showdown, the final face-off, and the resolution. This is where the hero wins. The hero saves the day with or without sacrifice. With sacrifice makes it a lot more juicy of a story. And especially if it's bittersweet in the end, where they had to give up something in order to save the wider community, one for the many or something like that. This is the scene where the hero eventually beats out the antagonist. And then the resolution or, what happens after the fact is shown. And the resolution is not necessarily going to be all unicorns and rainbows. Again, if the hero had to sacrifice something in order to win this showdown, then the resolution is showing the aftermath of that. Maybe the antagonist was, a giant monster rampaging through the city, and the hero had to give up something in order to stop this monster. Well, the aftermath is going to be the cleanup of all of that destruction. Some people probably did lose their lives, but in the end, maybe the city came together and supported the hero and they took down the monster, right? So the resolution is not all good. The resolution is the aftermath of what comes next, the change in the hero, the change in the city, the cleanup, the what comes next. So those were the genre conventions and obligatory scenes for the action genre. If you enjoyed this episode, please let me know down below. If you have a favorite genre you'd like me to cover with the story grid writing methodology, please let me know down in the comments and I will make sure to do that. Otherwise, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you can get a notification every time I release a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.